have Scott here, the sporting chef. So before we do that, what's a quick tip that you can share about cooking wild game so that I can make the most of it in my kitchen?
Number one tip that I give people that I've given them over the last 30 years is don't overcook it. Different parts of an animal require different kinds of cooking, but in general, the better parts of the animals, if you cook it too long, it's going to get tough and gamey. Don't do that.
All right.
Number one.
Straightforward and simple.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have probably seen various types of sharpeners living either in your kitchen knife drawer, your kitchen drawer. Hopefully you don't keep your knives in a drawer. In your kitchen drawers or on the counter or in other YouTube videos and whatnot. Here are a few common types. We start with basic honing steel. This comes in your knife block. This is a maintenance tool, not a sharpener. A whetstone or a diamond stone, these are tools that you use and drag your knife across to sharpen it, raise a burr, and then hone that burr. And then we have various electric sharpeners. These are some common ones out there on the market, and we'll walk through how to use this one specifically, the WorkSharp E5, and kind of the principles and what's going on behind the scenes as you're sharpening.
Can I make a confession?
Yeah.
That I do have a knife drawer.
You have an organized way in the knife drawer?
Are they in sheaths?
Well, no. Like I said, I'm a knife abuser, but I also, these knives that I grabbed are not the knives that I use all the time, obviously. Okay. These are in my office in a pile of knives. I have a knife bag that I travel with my good knives, and I didn't bring any of them because they're sharp. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to bring those. I want to bring the ones that need a little bit more work.
The E5 uses an abrasive belt to sharpen. Some different models will use diamond wheels or ceramic wheels. This one uses a belt. It's really similar to the way that professionals sharpen knives in factories or professional knife sharpeners.
And this has a very different style of knife sharpening for any kind of unit.
Yeah, there's 2 spots for your knife to sharpen each side of the bevel.
Right.
And that's it. So it runs through a process, and exactly like you said, it slows down 2 different times. So there's 3 speeds, refining the knife farther with every time it lowers the speed.
Right. And so for people who think that knife sharpening is complicated, and you know who you are, because I've seen your posts on the forums and your responses and your comments. Some people are really super serious about knife sharpening. Very technical.
I'll take their side for half a second. There are a lot of different factors that can come into play.
Right.
And if all you want to do is use your knife in your kitchen to prepare a meal and have a sharp knife that's enjoyable, it can be really simple.
Sure. And I think that's what most household cooks, kitchen people want is just a simple way to keep a sharp edge on a knife, and there is that.
The people like you that I run into that are cooking for large groups or all the time, the knife is a heavy use tool. You said you've got yours that some of them are really sharp still, some of them get beat up the more you use them and the longer you've had them and you just use them.
And I am a knife abuser, and I have lots of knives, but I also have different knife bags that I take with me depending on what I'm doing. If I'm going to go break down 100 pheasants for an event, then I'm going to put about a 25 to 30 degree bevel on that, as opposed to if I don't want to use my finest, super sharp, polished Shun knife to break down pheasant. So I'm going to have a less pointed blade. It's going to be like a 25 to 30 degree angle on that. So it'll hold up better, and I'm not constantly having to refine the edge.
Knives like Wusthoffs or other German knives, Dahlstrongs, or even Western American knives, KitchenAid, Henkel's, Cutco, those are going to be at a 17 to 20 degree angle usually.
Right.
And then Asian knives like Shun's are going to be closer to a 15 degree angle, and some are single beveled. You brought one here that's like a sushi knife.
Well, and Josh has been working on this too, because he said, hey, wait, this doesn't have a point on it. And it had a few dings in it too, which is why I brought it.
Yeah, so right before we actually got rolling here, I made sure to fix this up real quick and put a point on the knife, as well as take out some of the chips in the blade. Surprisingly quick process. It's single beveled, so that means it's not sharpened on the back side at all. I just removed the burr with a really fine belt. So we don't need to sharpen this one.
Nope.
But we are going to walk through. I noticed this one is a little bit abused. This one doesn't quite have a tip on it either.
I'm so ashamed.
All right, let's dive in and I'll show you how to sharpen this knife on the E5. I'll press this button 3 times to get to the shaping section, or the shaping speed. We'll run the knife through. It automatically drops down in speed.
And so if this knife wasn't as abused as it is, we would start on a lower level, right?
If you have sharpened your knife in the last 2 months, then you don't need to go all the way back to the shaping speed. You can just go to the sharpening or even refining.
And the idea is you're holding it against this angle guide here.
Yep, these are 17-degree guides. They're leather lined, so it's nice on the blade face. And I'm just dragging it through at a reasonable speed, about maybe 1 inch a second. And I'm immediately pulling through as soon as I drop that knife into the guide and contact the belt. I'm not letting it sit on the belt in one spot for too long.
Right.
This light's flashing at me, meaning it's about to drop down in speed. I'll let it do that. And now we're on the sharpening section, or the refining stage actually. And so it's much slower. We're just removing that burr.
And you're resting it, you're going all the way down?
Yeah, there's a little wheel right there.
Right. Because what I think what a lot of people do with sharpeners is they forget the tip.
Yep. Yeah, and so if you make sure that you have contact all the way through on that wheel and you're lightly lifting towards the end of that stroke,
not like this.
You don't need to bring it all the way up.
Sure.
You will round a tip if you do that.
Right.
But even this almost put the tip back on there. I mean, these don't have a really strong tip, but it definitely removed some of the chip that's on there.
I wonder what happened to the tip of that one.
I can only imagine.
Could have been a groundhog. Who knows? If you haven't eaten groundhog, you haven't missed anything.
Not a common grocery store food, not a common sportsman's food.
Yeah, I have a show called Dead Meat on Sportsman Channel in addition to The Sporting Chef, and that's where we eat the things that most people don't eat. And I can tell you all sorts of things not to eat, but let's just start with groundhog.
Well, does this knife deserve a place back in your traveling knife roll?
Oh yeah, I recognize this. That's what it was several jobs ago. But that didn't take long. And that's really user-friendly. My wife would use that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's give it a little bit more love and grab that ceramic hone. I'll let you do this part. You do this all the time.
So here's what people do with these things. Anything that looks like this, right? Because they've seen it on TV.
Yep.
Don't do that. What's cool about these is you've got an angle guide here. I like to put it firmly on a surface like this. Keep the same angle. And that's just going to refine that edge. Like that.
And you're good to go.
And this is what I have close at hand, whether it's in my knife drawer or some ways where I can get to it, because this is, if I just need to refine my edge as I'm going along, this is what I'm going to use, but I'm not going to bang my knife up against it.
Yep. A honing ceramic or a honing steel. I like the ceramic a little bit more. It removes a little bit more material, and it's harder, so it lasts longer, whereas steel on steel will wear over time and develop inconsistencies in the honing steel. So that's why I like a ceramic, but it's the same job both are doing. They're just keeping that edge straight in line through the use that you put that knife through, or abuse in your case.
Sure.
All right, let's see how we did. I'm going to give this knife to Scott to chop up some veggies.
You know, there is a gigantic difference between a dull knife and a sharp knife, right?
That's right. That is sharp, and your food will thank you.